Okay, so what I'd like to talk about now is how the skin repairs itself. This is one of the most important things that it does. If it is this barrier, if it does this thermoregulation, excretion, all this sort of stuff that is so important for us, it is going to get damaged because it is that part of us that is most in contact with the outside. And so it has to have this property to repair and regenerate. So it does that in these 4 phases that are listed right here. You can put them on your notes packets here under inflammatory phase, migratory phase, proliferation phase, and scarring phase. Okay, so what we're going to talk about now is what happens in the phase, and I would encourage you to put what I'm going to talk about right now in your own words. Okay, so this is showing the 4 phases in order. So first we have the inflammatory phase. This is where the barrier is first going to be breached, and you're going to notice that we've got a lot of bleeding going on. So bleeding, swelling, redness, pain. These are all hallmarks of inflammation. What the body's doing is that it's sending out an SOS. It says, hey, my skin barrier has been damaged, and it's going to be recruiting a lot of white blood cells to this area to help kind of be extra fortification in case some sort of bacteria or a virus or something like that tries to sneak through this barrier. And so when that happens, when those white blood cells come to this area, it's going to cause the redness, the swelling, that sort of stuff. The bleeding is because there's all those blood vessels down there in those deeper dermis layers, and they get cut, so they bleed. So what we're going to see next is the migratory phase. Now you notice here's a blood clot that's formed. It's plugged up the hole. That's what's showing in red here. We can also call that a scab. Okay. And so what you may notice here in purple is the epidermal layer. And now what we see is the basal cells, they're starting to migrate to the edges of the clot. Okay, eventually they're going to completely surround all of the edges of the clot. So those basal cells from the bottom layer of the epidermis go to those edges. We're also going to get more immune cells in there, particularly phagocyte cells. And these cells are going to be kind of trying to clean up, chew up, eat up some of the debris in these areas. And we're also going to get fibroblasts that migrate down deeper. Now, if you remember fibroblasts from our tissue lecture, those are the ones that make the fibers. And so if you notice, here's all of this area of dermis that a big chunk of it was taken out. And so not only do we need to repair the epidermis at the top, but somehow we've got to get the tissue down here at the bottom repaired. And remember, connective tissue, the bulk of it is, at least for our connective tissue proper, the bulk of it is going to be fibers. Okay, so again, basal cells migrate to the edges of the clot, and then we get immune cells coming in, and then fibroblasts go to these deeper areas. They're going to start replacing the fibers. Now here we're showing our proliferation phase. So you notice those fibroblasts have managed right here. It's showing they've managed to replace the fibers, so they're starting to remake this dermal tissue. Here on this, in the phase before, you notice that the basal layer was the only one that was there, and so your epidermis was 1 cell thick. Now those basal cells have started doing what they do, which is to make daughters. And those daughters are being pushed to the surface, and as they do that, this clot, this scab, starts to be dissolved. Okay, and so that's the main things that we're starting to see is the restoration of the dermis, the regrowth of the epidermis, and the dissolving of the clot right here. And then finally we have what is called the scarring phase. Now here you notice that the scab is completely gone. The fibroblasts have restored most of the matrix here, so they've restored most of the fibers. But one thing you may notice is that it looks a little different right here, and often when we see a scar, it looks different than the rest of our skin. There's a couple of reasons for that. One is that when these fibroblasts repair, they're going to put more collagen down than elastic. So that means that the skin in this area doesn't have as much recoil, and also it's going to have those denser collagen fibers. So that gives it a different texture to it. The other thing you're going to notice is that generally the blood vessels are not going to be as dense in this repaired area. If you remember, blood, oxygenated blood, has hemoglobin, which gives you that bright red color, hemoglobin bound to oxygen, and that gives you the red color. And so with less blood vessels in this area, the color is not going to be as red, and so that's why scars often have a different shade of skin to them. And finally, you may not see repair of the hair or the glands in this region, or usually you do not. And so that's why the scarred skin is going to be a little bit different than the regular skin that was never damaged. And so that is skin repair. Incredibly important.